I think in terms of talent in businesses, they are focused around teams, and you may find that you've got a team who are particularly strong in one area but not in another. So I don't think there is any perfect individual. I think the individual has to fit in with the team and what the needs are of that particular business. And there are businesses, you know, I would have a view that the people that turn around companies that are in turnaround mode are not the people to grow and maintain a business. And so, and you will find, and I find a lot with chief executives, that, you know, I literally will hire in those two groups. You will hire people who will do a great turnaround, but actually are not particularly talented at growing a business and maintaining that growth. And you'll find other people that are not as well equipped to do turnarounds and are not perhaps as ruthless as they need to be, but are very good in growth mode. And what's quite interesting in the market at the moment is there is a shift in terms of talent requirement back to people who can cope with very uncertain markets, massive cost-saving exercises, and so on. I think that you know, in terms of talent management within business, there are clearly lots of companies that claim to have great talent management programs, but in fact they may have a one-off initiative, but what they don't do is follow it through on an ongoing basis. And in terms of how much is talent worth, my view is that as a headhunter, that talent is worth what the market will pay for it. So I will see huge salary differentials in the same job for one individual, but because the individual who's at the high end of the spectrum has all the competencies which are perceived to be leading edge, whether it's commercial acumen, leadership capability, functional capability. But there are, you know, companies still pay for talent, and so very rarely now do I get a role that actually, for this role, we will pay X. It tends to be find me the most talented person to do that job. So, you know, that's I would say, is an overall philosophy. So I think that you need different things for different companies at a different stage in their cycle, and you know, that ultimately would sort of be my view. Well, I think first of all, with any candidate who's even seeking a job move, I'll always say to them, go through your CV, work out your competencies and get feedback from people who work around you about what you're actually good at, and then ensure that you review that against any new job role and make sure you've got some more boxes that you can add to it. So it's always about adding value to your CV. So I think from my perspective, people need to always be looking at adding value, and I think if you've done a job for more than 2 years, then I'd expecting you to have had significant learning and evidence that you've, you know, learned a lot during that period. What's interesting is some recent research has shown that a chief executive who goes into post in a business, after 7 years, even if they've been a high-performing chief executive, the performance of the business starts to tail off. So I think the life cycle of a chief executive is a maximum of 7 years. So for anybody out there who's got a longer lifespan than that, then they maybe ought to watch out. But that's around learning and getting additional input into sort of growth of that individual. So it does beg the question, if you've got a CEO that's in a business, how do you then constantly develop that talent that you have there so that they're not in that sort of 7-year plateauing, which is what all the evidence suggests. Also, statistically, people are much more successful in CEO positions if they've been promoted internally than they are if they've been hired externally. So, you know, that's another interesting piece of information and worth thinking about in terms of companies investing in talent management.